Hey, everybody. I hope and pray that you're doing well today as we come to our word from the Word. And today that word is proximity. Proximity. Today, following in the November and Thanksgiving season theme, I am thankful that God draws us near to Himself. I'm thankful that God allows us to come near. Because see, in our sin, in our unrighteousness, we are not worthy. And we are not able to come near to God. But because of the shed blood of Jesus Christ that covers our sin as believers, that shed blood covers us to where then we can draw near. At the same time, we often walk at what we call a guilty distance. We'll enjoy some sin, enjoy that time doing our own thing. And yet all the time as believers, we hear that still small voice saying, come back, come back. And so James 4 tells us that draw near to God and He will draw near to you. It's like you just you start to take a step towards Him and He'll come the rest of the way. But we've got to turn and come to Him. Now, having said all that, we're not talking about James, and a lot of in the book of Hebrews talks a lot about being able to draw near because of the shed blood and because of the sacrifice that was made. So let's go back to where the law was given in the Ten Commandments. That's not the whole law, but as He's giving this, and in Exodus chapter 20 is where we're at today, you have this scene that was on the Mount Sinai in chapter 19, and so He's kind of filling in the gaps there, looking back and telling you what all God had said. And apparently the people can hear what is going on because God is speaking through the thunder and through the cloud. And it's not something that they're really excited about. In fact, they're terrified. And so let's notice something today here in Exodus chapter 20, and we'll look at verses 18 through 21. Now all the people witnessed the thunderings, the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood afar off. Then they said to Moses, You speak with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. And Moses said to the people, Do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that His fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. So the people stood afar off, but Moses drew near the thick darkness where God was. Proximity. How close are you to God today? You notice that Moses was not afraid. And see, we talk about fear, right? I hope you understand there are kind of a dividing line in fear. So one is like terrified for like physical, imminent danger. The other is a fear, like I typically use it as describe it as a reverential awe. It is having that fear of the Lord, that you know His power and you understand His holiness and you understand more and more about Him. So you have a fear of Him in the same way that you would fear a father, a parent. I look at it this way. I used to use the example of my grandfather, that he threatened to spank me and my brother. One time we were acting like brothers. We were acting like boys, and he threatened us one time. And he never had to spank either one of us because I knew that he meant it. Now, here's the thing: you say, "Well, you were afraid of him." Well, yeah, part of it was fear of the pain that I was going to have to be undertaking. But also it was a fear, a respect for my grandfather and what I knew. I knew he meant what he said. You say, okay, well, you're just scared of him. That's the only reason you listened to him after that. No, I listened to him because of who he was. And he still showed love. I never questioned whether he loved me or not because he said that. In fact, as we know, that God disciplines those whom he loves. And so I always think about that kind of that example there of the difference in fear for your own safety and a reverential awe, a fear that is giving worth to the one that you're fearing. So with that, the people here, they seem to be more on the fearful side of like the terrified side. Whereas Moses certainly in his flesh is having a difficult time with all the things that he's seeing. I mean, he's still just a man. Let's not forget that. And so even though he could be having some of that problem, he is still faithful enough and he still knows God well enough to know that if God is calling him closer, then he knows that he is able to come closer. He recognizes the fact that God is the one calling and he wants and desires to go closer. You also understand what he tells the people. God is not doing all this and having this great show. I don't want to make it seem like God's putting on a show, but all that he's seeing, I mean, this spectacle of what he's looking at, he says God didn't do all that so you would be terrified of him. He's doing all of this to test you. He's doing all this to test to see if you're willing to be obedient. Don't forget that the people say, hey, we'll do whatever you say. We'll follow your commands. And here he's given them commands. But we're going to see how quickly they go away from those and how quickly they disobey. But I think it's because they were afar off. Moses wasn't perfect by any means. But at least as we see here, he was willing to draw near. I would ask you today, are you far off? Are you maybe even like the prodigal son that's really gone a long ways off? Or are you one that's close enough to see the work of God, like these people? They're close enough to see the work of God. They're close enough to hear the words of God. But yet they realize they are walking at such a distance that they're afraid to draw any closer. That they're afraid to come anywhere closer. So what they do is they rely on Moses. They rely on the one that will go closer. I think this is the problem in our churches today. That too many times you have those who will, the same thing. Man, they're afraid to come to church. They're afraid to get any closer to God. And then they're even afraid to get into their prayer closet. They're afraid to get into quiet time. They're afraid to get close to God for whatever reason. And so the church body will rely on the pastor or rely on the Sunday school teachers or the deacons or somebody else to go near to God for them because they're afraid to go themselves. I hope and pray that today you realize that one of the reasons that Jesus came, or part of the purpose of the death of Christ, was to fulfill the need for us not to have to go through a priest to go to God, that you could draw near. Now, go into, because he had gone into the Holy of Holies, and that he has prepared the way so that we can go through Jesus Christ to get to God, that we can draw near to him, and when we do, he will draw near to us. Today, I'll end with this question. What is your proximity to God today? God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.